Drink it in, drink it in, drink it in, man.
It is picked off by the line. Darius Slay's got it. Coming back right side, 25. Picks up a block at the 30. Darius at the 40.
Drink it in, drink it in. Drink it in, drink it in, drink it in, man.
Rolls to the right. Stafford throws deep. Got a man out there. End zone. Caught. Touchdown, Detroit Lions. Marvin Jones.
Drink it in, drink it in.
Touchdown, Detroit Lions. Cornbread.
Drink it in, drink it in, drink it in, man.
Hey, it's Kaylee Cuoco for Priceline. Ready to go to your happy place for a happy price? Well, why didn't you say so? Just download the Priceline app right now and save up to 60% on hotels. So whether it's Cousin Kevin's Kazoo Concert in Kansas City, go Kevin, or Becky's Bachelorette Bash in Bermuda, you never have to miss a trip ever again. So download the Priceline app today. Your savings are waiting.
Go to your happy place for a happy price. Go to your happy price, Priceline.
Detroit Koolaid, what is going on, everybody? Friday, we are back right here on the Detroit Koolaid Cast, and I got Grifka on the other end of the line. Grifka, last show, we talked free agency. We had a bunch of awesome stuff to talk about. Another jam-packed show here. How you doing, buddy?
Doing good, man. It's been an exciting week.
It definitely has, man. Our Lions continue to sign guys, and we're that much closer to the draft, probably about a month and a half or so. It'd be the end of April, and we'll be talking draft. So what's on your mind? You got any news and notes, Grifka, or what are we thinking share with the people today?
Yeah, like I said, it's been an exciting week. We always talk like, hey, Lions, get these guys, bring them in, get them signed. We got Trey Flowers. And then earlier this week, I was stumbled across this article that they did this survey of like NFL agents, of like players' agents. And it came down that it was out that Detroit was the fourth least desirable place to land. They gave different reasons why. I mean, I believe they were behind Buffalo, Cincinnati, and Oakland. And, they kind of, like one of the quotes was Cincinnati. Nobody goes to Cincinnati because it's just not well run. And one of the things about Detroit was the quote they used wasn't even like bashing the place as a whole, like the city, but they're like, other than, well, there's not too much nightlife there. Well, yeah, Detroiters know we're not Los Angeles, Las Vegas, or, New York. But then somebody, like one of the quotes was like, they have this coach there that thinks he's, Bill Belichick, and he hasn't won, bleep. It's just, like, guys don't want to go there and play for this guy. And to me, that's just like, he's been around 1 year. And like all of a sudden, like nobody wants to play for this guy. Did you happen to see that article? And if so, what were your thoughts on it?
Grifka, I saw the article. And you know what I thought right when I saw the article?
No, I don't.
I thought Grifka's going to bring this up on the podcast. One, because he's going to be annoyed saying like that everybody's always attacking the Lions, and two, he's going to pull an article like this when all this great stuff is going on about some nitwit out there kind of talking bad about our team. So you came through for me. You brought it up first thing on the show, which was pretty much where I know you'd have it slotted. Grifka, this is noise, man. This is people talking that have no idea. Of course they're going to put Detroit at the bottom of the barrel because they think we're Detroit from 20 years ago where we had no downtown, nothing going on. Like the whole comment about Matt Pat, he thinks he's Bill Belichick Jr. I mean, of course, that's the take everybody has that is outside of Detroit or just kind of looking at it from afar. They all think that. Like last time I checked, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, it sure didn't seem like we had trouble bringing in players. It sure seemed like a lot of players were saying, I'm coming here because of Matt Pat. I'm coming here because Coach Patricia. I love the system. I love what their team is building here. So this is just all garbage, man. Like, everybody knows Detroit is one of the greatest sports cities in the whole country. They know that when athletes come here, they get a whole different view of the city, of the teams that are here, and the whole atmosphere. So, like, have our Lions won at a high level yet? No. but there's not too many players that come here that don't walk away saying, man, I love Detroit, like had a great time there, really worked hard, all that good stuff. So being a desirable city, like to me, this is just one agent popping off, trying to be a tough guy or trying to be the smartest guy in the room. I mean, I got no time for it. Like, we're turning the team around. The city's been turned around for a while now, and I just got no time for this.
Yeah, it's kind of what I was thinking. There's just, more people like, the thing like, Detroit versus everybody, and, just people piling, these guys piling on these cities, like, oh, everybody has like this thought process, even when I hear the word Buffalo, all I think is just piles and piles of snow. Even if it was, you go over there like in probably like August and you see like 4 feet of snow already over in Buffalo. And, I've driven through Cincinnati. It's a nice city, but it's still like, I think Cleveland, when it comes to football, Cleveland still gets more press, even though that, Cleveland's up and coming. In Oakland, that one kind of surprised me. Everybody like kind of bags on L. Davis. They go through a lot of coaches, but still, like Oakland's like one of those places that just has like this mystique, silver and black. Antonio Brown seemed more than happy to be traded there. He actually, the rumor was that he actually, didn't want to go to Buffalo, so he gets traded out to Oakland. So with the silver and black, so. Like you said, I think there's just more people just piling on, not knowing the whole story, what's down there, downtown, the surrounding area. Like you said, the fan base it's starving for victories, but it's still a pretty loyal fan base. So, like you said, I think it's just one of those guys just popping off for no reason, just to try to sound like Mr. Cool. So, yeah, enough of that. Let's move on to something else here. I know you don't like to discuss other teams, and people are here to hear about the Lions, but this does affect the Lions. Out of the free agent signings that have taken place so far, are there any in the division that you think the Lions are like, whoa, or even yourself, you're like, whoa, this is going to have to be somebody the Lions have to watch out for when they play them? Is there anybody that either the Bears, the Vikings, or Green Bay signed where you were surprised or like, whoa, this is the guy that Detroit's really going to have to, game plan for offense, defense wise when they play him?
Well, Grifka, like I think I've mentioned that, over the last few years, I always felt like the teams in the North were getting like those free agents that were the cream of the crop, or playmakers, or defensive studs. It was always, Green Bay was getting people. Minnesota loaded up a couple years ago. You know what I mean? Chicago now is getting all these players. So, I was always frustrated by that. It was like, hey, man, if we're not going to get these top free agents or these skill guys, like, have them go to the AFC or have them go somewhere far, far away from our team. But they always seem to be kind of falling in our division, which was always frustrating. So this year, I mean, I feel like we came out swinging and, opened up the checkbook and got some people. So I was feeling good about that. And then next thing you know, Green Bay is over there signing Smith and Smith. They're getting Preston Smith and Zadarius Smith. And then they're getting double A Adrian Amos, an up-and-coming safety. I mean, I didn't like that. They really were sleepwalking, and they added to their defense. I mean, I was excited to – like, there was all that rumor and innuendo about, Anthony Barr is coming to the Lions, and we all were kind of like, hey, he's athletic. He could be a good fit. But, I mean, I'm much happier with Flowers and kind of the other additions they made, a lot more strategical than just going out and getting an Anthony Barr. But I was hoping for sure he was going to go to the Jets, and then he turns around and stays at Minnesota. I mean, if he ends up reaching his potential, that could really hurt our team. And then I've heard a lot of different things about Chicago, but I mean, they really haven't come out and added too many impactful players, just a couple guys here or there. I think it was Dan Miller was talking about, oh man, Chicago got Cordero Patterson. I mean, to me, that guy was a bum, and then he went to the Patriots, and they figured out how to use him, which they always do, and he ended up being better than good. But I don't see him coming to Chicago and being, anything extraordinary. Like maybe Matt Nagy runs some trick plays, but so I think Chicago hasn't done much in free agency. But Green Bay, I think they're kind of building their team. They didn't add to the offense at all. And Minnesota has pretty much stayed pat, just with a few losses and then adding Barr. So not terrible this year. I mean, I think the Lions not only got the best of free agency out of the 4 teams, but, is going to have a really competitive team. It's going to be a competitive division, no doubt, in 2019.
Yeah, get the bell. I agree with you on that. It seems like Green Bay is obviously trying to improve their defense, and they signed an offensive lineman. I can't remember his name right off the top of my head, but it's one of those things. It's Green Bay. I don't really focus on Green Bay all that much until like the season comes around. We gotta critique them at that point. But you're right. That sounds like they got the Smith and Smith, so they're obviously looking to get a law practice going there. But they're obviously just trying to improve that defense, and I don't even know if the defense was the big problem with that team last year. But Minnesota, they haven't seemed to really pull anybody in. I believe they got another offensive lineman. I know they released Mike Remmers, their offensive guard, and I don't know how much help they needed. Getting Barr back is going to be big for those guys. I know you really liked him, and you brought him up, and you kind of had me swaying that way if the Lions could sign him, before, as we were talking before, like, oh, if they got Anthony Barr, would be a guy that you would target. But him going back there, it was kind of like, kick the wall, when I heard that he went back to Minnesota as opposed to signing with the Jets. But like I mentioned in the last podcast, the Lions made some moves, leaps and bounds that I think makes them so much more competitive in this division that I think I personally think if they're not on par, they've probably leapfrogged at least one or two teams. So I think it's going to be, once again, another real competitive division. But I don't think there's anybody that I really think that the Lions really need to watch the tape on this guy. We really need to focus on that guy. I don't think anybody else in the division has signed that guy. So I'm liking where the Lions are at, stacked up against everybody else right now.
Hey, Grifka, before you move on, the Detroit Koolaid drinkers, man, they absolutely love when I bag on you. So I know we brought it up in last show, but you pretty much just repeated my take again, bro. You're stealing my material. I love that we got to hit the bell, but you basically not only agreed with me, but then repeated my take. So I'm sure the people loved hearing it twice, but just want to call you out again on that. So
I can't help it. I'm your ghostwriter.
Yeah, we got an echo in here, I think.
must be the podcast. Okay, let's move on. And so we've seen who the Lions have signed, and other teams have signed, and just kind of thinking, is there anybody else really out there that in free agency that you think the Lions may be targeting in positions of need that we were kind of talking about last episode? And I know there's some guys out there, I think maybe even though the Lions have some money left, they might be priced themselves out with the money they have spent. Somebody like, Justin Houston, been real dominant in Kansas City. I know he's no longer in Kansas City and hasn't signed yet. Jamie Collins, he might be on the downside of his career, but I always thought he was still pretty productive in Cleveland last year for that team. But is there anybody else out there? I was thinking just kind of off the top of my head, guys like Brett Grimes, Morris Claiborne, Brian Callahan, out there, cornerback, safety, I believe, Eric Berry just got released. Kurt Coleman, Darian Stewart's out there. And we know they're still probably looking for a guard. A couple names off the top of my head. Was it Uapati and Levitri? And I just mentioned Mike Remmers being released by Minnesota. Is there anybody else that maybe you can think of, or any of those guys that you may be interested in the Lions making a run at?
Oh, Grifka, you threw a million names at me here. Where do I start with this question / book that you just read off to me? So, who's left worth getting, I think was your initial question. So,
exactly.
I think everybody that's been following along knows the Lions went out, moment one and plugged some holes. They plugged the slot receiver position. They plugged nickel corner. And they put a huge plug and a huge deposit, a big check into the edge rusher, but also just a big physical defensive player that you can move around on the defensive line, and the tight end as well. So they kind of filled some holes there. So when we're looking at it from a global perspective of what else do they need to fill, it seems pretty obvious, and it hasn't been brain surgery throughout. I think Bobby Quinn pretty much just took 5-10 minutes, looked at the team and said, okay, here's our 5-6 holes. I'm just going to find the best people I can and pay them and plug those holes. So the ones that are left, in my opinion, are number 2 corner. Depending on if they feel like they need another safety. I mean, they might feel okay with Tracy, Diggs, and Tavon. But if they feel they need another safety, they might go that route. And they still got to figure out what they're doing at the guard position. That's another gaping hole where TJ was. So, I mean, I'm trying to remember some of the names you threw at me, Grifka. Brent Grimes, are you kidding me? The guy's like 36, 37 years old playing corner. Like, this guy shouldn't even be in the league anymore. I'm definitely not bringing him to Detroit. I think you said Mo Claiborne. Like, the guy's never been good. I loved him kind of in that draft. That was a miss by me because he's never really been good. He's just bounced around and stayed in the league, but he's no good. You named off Mike.
Another one from the Bears at cornerback, maybe.
No, I don't like him either. Like, I don't have a list in front of me, but I know I was kind of looking at guys that in the middle of their career, like 26, 27, that maybe have some upside. Like, I remember I liked Darqueze Dennard coming out of the draft. I know he's still out there. A couple guys just got scooped up, so, who knows? We'll kind of have to see how it shaked out. For all we know, they might have just recently signed people before we got recording here. So, Mike Remmers, no thanks. He went to, the Vikings and was no good. I couldn't see him like turning himself around. Mike Iupati, I loved back in the day. It seems like he's getting older. I really wouldn't want to spend big money for him. Justin Houston is an interesting name just because he produces, man. He's like, could they find a rush role for him and bring him in at a decent number and find a way to just let him get after the quarterback? But I think he's going to be both too expensive and just they're going to roll with who they got. So, a lot of those names you named off, I mean, I just see them finding a mid-level vet, to compete maybe at guard position. I see them bringing in a vet, like a Dennard or like some of the other corners that are out there that are a little bit younger, a little bit more upside, and then drafting a complement. But, they got a few more holes to plug, but we've got the draft. And like I said, they still got a boatload of money. I'm not putting it past BQ to pull a big trade of bringing in a guy that we have not on our radar at all and plug in one of those holes where we're like, whoa, that was a big swing, because he's still got money left and there's still those opportunities out there.
Yeah, that would be nice. I mean, talk about sending the Lions fans on their ear if they were able to do that, pull a big trade and get a big name to start opposite Slay in that backfield with the other guys they got. I mean, I know we'd be jumping for joy. What about Tease Tabor? Do you think they might give him a shot? It might be one of those things, just like, they kept saying, yeah, we're watching this guy. We're improving. We're still on, with him. I think he can be good. Do you think they may give him a chance going in, or do you think it's one of those things where we don't want to sign one of those mid-level, older cornerbacks to be a replacement, if Tease doesn't pan out? Either you think do you think they might just stick with him and have Tease go at it?
No. I think it's a total shot in the dark of Tease ever getting it together or being good. I feel like at the best case right now is that he's maybe a backup outside corner that has to play for injury. Maybe they find packages where, I mean, the big thing with Tease, first and foremost, we knew coming in, he's slow as molasses. I think he ran like a 4.7. I mean, you got corners nowadays across the board running 4.4s or lower, and this guy's running 4.7. I mean, that's slower than Montez Sweat. So we knew that coming in, and at Florida, he was all about jumping routes and all that type of stuff. Like, unless they can find packages and let this guy use his instincts, jump routes, play in zone, man, I just don't feel good about it. I didn't really love the pick. I tried to sort of support it, but here we are a couple years in, and I just don't see him making a huge leap forward because of the scheme and because of his speed. So, yeah, I really don't have many hopes there, and I hope that, he can just be a decent backup. And, heck, I wish the football would find him a couple times a year on a tip ball or something, just so he at least had some turnover numbers.
Yeah. What about Mike Ford? Do you think you think he's just another guy that might be just on the as a roster guy and only playing pressing situations where there's injuries, or do you think that might be a guy they might look at as well?
And Mike Ford, to me, I mean, now that we've upgraded the nickel and we're probably looking for either a big splash at number 2 corner or maybe putting a decent draft resource. I mean, Mike Ford makes the team. Again, he's a backup. He's a developmental upside guy. I mean, if we will go back and remember the tape we watched on the Kool-Aid Rewinds, Grifka, most of the time it was not pretty. I mean, Mike Ford was a guy at the bottom of the roster that we were both kind of like, maybe there's something there, or maybe he's decent. But I think we saw enough when he's in the game that he can't really be counted on and can't be a legit player. I mean, a backup, a depth player maybe, but no, I don't see much there either. They got to do much better. I mean, I feel really good about the nickel spot now, but you cannot leave this number 2 corner just empty and just think, oh, we'll get by, because we've seen how that's worked out.
Yeah, and I believe was it Charles Washington? He's a defensive back, but that guy's a strict special teamer. That guy's not going to be starting like I always say, if that guy's starting, they're in real trouble. So I'm not putting any faith in that guy either. And I know at this point we had you said maybe like they go in and draft somebody, and I know we talked about this on the last episode with their free agent signings. Does maybe this bring in something a little clearer at the 8 position? Now, me personally, I think that once again the biggest needs we're kind of going over it again. The cornerback, linebacker, tight end, maybe get another edge guy. I don't know. That's a distinct possibility simply because there's so much D-line talent in this year's draft. If they were looking maybe at cornerback, sorry, is somebody out there that I know we talk about Greedy, but I know I read something where they asked a Lions scout about Greedy, and he bluntly said, no, we like our cornerbacks to tackle. So that sounds like, they're not going to – it doesn't sound like they're ever going to take him. But is there somebody else? There's like no cornerback now high enough on your board that you might be interested in at 8.
Yeah, I mean, I remember really early in the draft process, it was kind of like, oh, man, Greedy Williams seems like he has the size, seems like he just loved, again, going back to the joke about great names. I mean, Greedy for a corner just sounded great, and he's from LSU, all that type of stuff. I mean, as the process has moved forward, like, no thanks. I mean, can't spend number 8. I'm much more willing to sort of let the draft process play out. I got my sights a lot more set on a Warrior or even Julian Love from Notre Dame. I heard was a round 2 type target that might be available. I did hear a Warrior might have some tackling concerns as well, but he's a press corner that at least you can get in that second round rather than having to spend an early to mid round on either Greedy or Byron Murphy and some of those other guys I've talked about. Your boy DeAndre Baker. I mean, those guys. I don't see any of those guys going to the Lions, but I do see the Lions in either the second or maybe getting Rocky Sin in the 3rd round and adding.
You won't be there by then.
Or adding to their corner position that way, but nobody is justifiable at 8 in my opinion. I think it'd be a stretch, and like you say, man, they got to be able to tackle and they got to be able to play press coverage if they want to be a Lions corner. That seems to be the word I'm hearing.
Okay. And then with who they signed, does that maybe open up at the number 8 position, maybe a linebacker? I know we were we talked about Devin White, and I know I believe Devin Bush. I jotted him down, but I just a big Michigan fan. But I think maybe 8's a little too high for Devin Bush. I think that may be a little bit of a reach. But with a linebacker, maybe another linebacker besides those 2, you may be interested in at the 8 position.
So here's the thing, Grifka. So for a while, I touted Devin White and told you all the reasons it'd be amazing. I got you on board. You started loving it. And then I think it was a week or 2 ago, I backed off of it saying, I don't think they'll go there. I just don't know if they would want to deal with 2 alphas in there, and how would it work, all that type of stuff. hey, man, with what they've done in free agency, like, I'm definitely back on that train of if Devin White is there, which is crazy. Like, I've seen him at going 5 to Tampa Bay, and I've also seen him in the 15. So, it'll just be real curious to see where he falls. I mean, if somebody takes him before, even at 4 at Oakland, I've seen him in some mocks. Like, if he goes that high, I mean, of course, then linebacker's off the board because he's the only guy. But yeah, if he's sitting there at 8, and I feel like I've upgraded my D line, I have the cornerback, figured out that I'm going to get him in round 2 or whatever. I'm back on the train, man, of Devin White at number 8. If you can't trade down, this guy can cover. He's an alpha. He can lead the defense. Him and JD can probably work together now, especially once I heard the Lions were maybe going after Mosley. It was like, hey, man, if they're going after Mosley, like, they not only want another guy inside there that can make all the calls and the plays, but if you're willing to spend that kind of money that they probably had to even talk to Mosley, like, yeah, they definitely would consider spending the number 8 draft pick. So absolutely, Devin White's back on my radar. But I definitely wouldn't. I know you didn't really ask it, but Montez or Oliver or even Farrell, like if they feel like that's a good pick, why not double down on the edge rusher as well?
What about Rashawn Gary? What if he was sitting there? Would you be interested in him?
Yeah. I mean, I like his skills. I know people have been either really hot or really cold sort of on that guy. I remember watching Michigan games, man, and he flies off the ball. He always seemed to almost get there, which I know is Grifka's favorite stat. But I think he could be dynamic at the NFL level. He has some versatility, which we know the Lions love. So, yeah, man, if he's sitting there, but if Devin White and Gary are sitting there, I mean, I run up to the podium and take Devin White, I think, just because, Gary would be just totally piling on to our front line, whereas Devin White would kind of change our defense to have 2 guys inside there that can run and cover and do all that stuff. So, if everything's equal now with what they've done, I'm taking Devin White. If Devin White's gone, yeah, I think you sort of, I wouldn't take Rashawn Gary over Oliver or over Burns or over Sweat. He'd probably be my 4th guy if I had to.
Yeah, I think when it comes to Rashawn Gary, he may be the best player available option, depending on how the Lions put their board up. At that point, I don't think Rashawn Gary is like the big need, but he might be one of those things like we were talking, best player available. If the Lions fail, he's the best player available, you got to take him, then take him. But I'm with you on that, especially with Montez Sweat. His speed, you can't teach speed. So if it was like down between those 2 or even, like you said, I'm kind of even Devin White, you're bringing me on board his way, but you just can't teach speed. I mean, I would place both those guys in front of Rashawn Gary. Offensive side, I mean, I don't believe the Lions. I sure hope they don't take a wide receiver at 8 based on who they have coming in and signing of Danny Amendola. And I can't see a running back even at 8, even if there was a stud one based on having, carry on back there. That leaves tight end position. I mean, it's odd how draft boards change. You see at first everybody up in arms, T.J. Hawkinson's out there. Would you be interested in T.J. Hawkinson, Noah Fant, any other tight end at the 8 position right now, based on what the Lions have signed?
I think that I could see the Lions just sort of thinking that they set themselves up to take Hawkinson and say, he was almost like a have to have kind of guy just because what else they had done, hey, we feel good about our D-line, like we have Jared Davis in the middle, we feel good about our corners and safeties, so we're just going to take this tight end because they feel like he's a great 2-way type player. They think that he just fits great. Man, I just don't like it necessarily at 8. Now, I've always yelled at you and Hughes that, hey, if they take him at 8 and he plays great football, then it's not a reach. It's a good pick. But I think there's just going to be too many other impactful players to take a tight end at 8. I think that you have to trade down or, I'm thinking that a guy like Irv Smith Jr. might be staring him in the face in the second round. And if they took a big D-end rush guy or Devin White and then have Irv Smith there, like that, to me, that's sort of perfect scenario, because then you're filling a nice need with an athletic player to go along with a gritty guy like Jesse James, but you're not spending a huge resource at number 8 to do so. So that's the way I'd go.
I mean, you know me, tight end in the first round. No thanks. But yeah, definitely second round. If Irv Smith Jr., Noah Fant, I believe I've seen some drafts where Noah Fant slipping into the first round. If they can get somebody like that in the second round, I would be all for that. And I know earlier this week, Kyler Murray had his pro day down at Oklahoma, and a few teams set up interviews with him afterwards. My take on Kyler Murray, the guy, all he's done is thrown. He hasn't ran either at his pro day or the combine. He didn't get measured at his pro day, his height or anything like that. All he did was throw. So, I don't want Kyler Murray. I you know how I feel about them. I think he'll be a bust. I know everybody's like, oh, his athleticism, he's great. He's this, no, I'd run from Kyler Murray. Would you have any interest in Kyler Murray if he was somehow fell to 8?
Grifka, we've been over this, man. I'm rolling with Matt Stafford.
But you could get Kyler Murray cheap, and he could be your quarterback in a couple years.
Yeah, you could, but it just doesn't make financial sense. It doesn't make draft resource sense right now. I mean, to me, he's not a slam dunk. Like the Lions, if they go get another quarterback and pull a move like this, to me, it would be a big 6'5" pocket passer that can play under center, can run and pass, can be tough. You know what I mean? Like all these things that Matt Pat and those guys might want, a Brady-ish player. They're not going to go get a little 5'8", 185-pound quarterback like Kyler Murray. And to me, Dwayne Haskins would be too big of a dice roll too. He's just I think he could be really good, but he's not a player for the Lions. I mean, give it another year or two, and then we can maybe have this discussion. But for at least probably 2 more years, I'm willing to roll with Stafford. I think he's going to ball out. I think he's going to have a great defense, a good run game, and quarterback's not even a thought for me, really.
Okay, I'm glad we're on the same board with that. So, well, I mean, it's been a pretty interesting week. Based on what the Lions have done, I know they've, like you said, probably got some more moves, in the hopper somewhere that they're going to surprise Lions fans with. A lot of, obviously, pro days are starting at colleges, even some of the small colleges. Those are going out, and there always seems to be one of those sleeper guys somewhere in the draft. They always come from a college you never heard of. So I know we'll have more information next week with a lot of these pro days happening, and more people's draft boards will change. So, I really didn't got nothing else to talk about. Is there anything else you want to cover before we get out of here?
Grifka, I think it's been a good show. I really enjoyed our Wednesday show, so people missed that, please go back in the archives and check that out. We talked all about free agency and lots of good takes there. Today we got to kind of dive into some drafts, really break it down. I mean, pro days don't do much for me at all, Grifka. It's just a showcase of these guys. I mean, not really moving anybody up or down my board. I was even surprised the combine this year kind of caught my eye, where people jumped off the page with their speed or their athleticism more so than other years. But, between that and these pro days, I mean, basically we know who our targets are. We know the scenarios. I just can't wait to get to draft day and see if we can finally pull a couple trade downs. I can't wait to see who else the Lions sign. The next couple weeks, we'll be talking all about it. So I think we're set, man. We're going to go ahead and get out of here and let the people kind of drink it in. And we'll be back next week, talk all about it. So for the people, Grifka, you got anything else?
Nope.
All right, everybody. Well, thank you so much. Please subscribe. Please leave us a review. And please get at us on Twitter or find us website, social media. But send us some message on Twitter. Send us questions every week. Send us your takes on these Lions signings. We're doing a lot more interaction and kind of just diving in on these types of things, and love kind of connecting with the people that are out there listening. Any suggestions, things you have, we love all that type of stuff. So please keep doing that. And please, for the most part, catch us right back here next week for the Detroit Koolaid Cast. So for me and for Grifka, we're going to get up out of here. Everybody have a tremendous weekend. The Lions are doing big things in free agency and bigger things to come. So we're going to get up out of here. Grifka, check you next week, buddy.
Pack the bag, start the plane. This game is over. It is over. What a comeback by the Lions.
Drink it in, man.